Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the IWillAim Podcast. Our topic for today: navigating career transition with Barbara Boselli. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Let's start with a quick introduction. Maybe you kind of share a little bit about yourself.
I'm Barbara Boselli, and I'm the founder of Bnow Consulting. Our organization brings leadership training and coaching to companies all over the United States. I am originally from Brazil when I came here to get my MBA from the Kellogg School of Management, then went to work for Google for many years, and eventually decided to take a break from my corporate life and then relaunch my career in this field.
Wow, very impressive background.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Can you take us through your journey of transitioning, like you mentioned, from corporate to as a full time mom and launching your own business?
Yes. So I had over 15 years working in large organizations, both back in Brazil and then here in the United States. And eventually I started noticing that first, I really loved the people development side of my career. And that was not what I was focused on. I was doing strategy and operations mainly in my last corporate job. And I also I had small kids at home, and I started going through this phase of like trying to understand, am I in the right path here? And eventually I decided that I wanted to take a break. And it was not easy to do that because I had invested so much time and effort and money, right? Investing in myself and getting to where I was. I had a good job, a high paying job with a nice title at a very known organization like Google. So taking that step to leave and kind of start all over again, at least that's how I saw it, felt like a really big, hard step to take. And eventually I did it. So at the time I was pregnant with my youngest son, and my oldest son was 2 years old. So I went into that sabbatical and started to kind of work on my own self development. So I took some different trainings. I went through a spiritual psychology training, which is all about self development, and started thinking about what do I want to do next. And as I was learning about myself and human behavior, it was very clear to me that all those skills that I was learning would be extremely useful for corporate people because we are all humans. Wherever we go, there we are, right? So I spent some time thinking about, okay, how do I bring this to organizations? And eventually, I got certified to teach a training called Search Inside Yourself, which is a leadership training that's all based on emotional intelligence and founded on mindfulness and neuroscience. And I started bringing that training to organizations, and then started developing my own trainings, and then got certified to be a coach as well. So one thing led to the other. And now that's what I do full time.
I'm going to ask a follow up question. What are the challenges that you face in starting your own business?
It's a really good question. Um, First of all, it was actually starting because
Okay.
I had ideas of what I wanted to do, but I didn't have a clear path. Like I had never done this before. I've never been an entrepreneur before. So I had a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. And for a while, I was paralyzed because I felt like I had to have all the answers before I started. And eventually I noticed that that wasn't taking me anywhere. So the first challenge was actually just jumping into it, right? And taking one step. And then after that one step, the second step and third step, things would just kind of follow. Um, Another challenge was kind of really believing in myself that I could do this. I haven't done this kind of work before. That's not what I was officially trained for. So really believing that I could make that shift. I was in my early 40s when I started my career. And, I had all sorts of thinking that I was old enough. I was too old, or I didn't have the right background, or how was I going to get clients? So just kind of getting over myself, that was a big hurdle for sure. And something that sometimes I still face. And then I kind of remind myself that, It's just taking one step at a time and things unfold.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. The next question I have is around mindset. What key mindset shift did you make in order to you to have a successful transition?
Yeah. Well, I think the first one was really that I'm not my job, right? That was a big mindset shift because for many, I started working when I was really young. I was selling baked goods at school. And then, right when I was in college, I was already in internships. And then one job followed the other. So I've always worked and I always introduced myself as Barbara from L'Oreal, Barbara from Google, whatever that is. So this mindset that I am not my job, I still have value, even if I don't have, a big corporation behind me or something like that. That was one big mindset shift. Another one was, I kind of mentioned this slightly before, but this idea that step two is the killer of step one, because I used to think that I needed to have all my steps lined up before I took step one. So I needed to know where my clients are going to come from, what are all the offerings I'm going to have, even like what's going to be the name of my company, how much am I going to charge. So I felt like I needed all those answers before I took step one, and that really paralyzed me. So this mind shift that you just take one step at a time and then you see what happens, and then you reconsider, you can keep going the same path or you adjust, and just kind of going one step at a time. That was another big shift for me.
I think that's a great knowledge for people to learn that you don't need the entire puzzle created before you actually get started. And thank you for sharing that because I'm sure a lot of people that be listening to this episode will be going to some sort of things that they want to do. And sometimes, like you said, we want to have a plan before we start. And learning from you, seeing that you succeeded in what you do, and you started with a couple of things and put them together, it's a great story for people to learn. So thank you very much for sharing that. In starting a business, many people struggle with fear and self-doubt. And I didn't mention a little bit about this, but during your career transition, how did you manage those emotions? And what advice would you give someone who felt like they're stuck and they don't know what to do next?
um that's a good question. Well, first, I think we want to normalize that anytime we go into a new territory, it is very common that there's going to be fear, there is going to be anxiety. None of us are like free of that, right? And we can acknowledge that and then do it afraid.
Hmm.
I think that's the big leap here, because some of us allow the fear to paralyze us. And I'll be honest, for a while, it did paralyze me. Like it took me a while to actually jump into it. And some of us just do it afraid. And I'm going to even add one thing. If I could go back, I would just jump in faster and with more all in, right? Because for a while I started my business, but I was still like, not sure, is this really what I'm gonna do? Can I really do it? And just kind of doubting myself. And that didn't help me because it just pulled me back. So I really think that, acknowledging that there is fear, there is doubt, doing it anyway, and going all in, because then you're going to get the results faster. Another thing that's very helpful, I think, is surround yourself with people that believe in you, that support you, that are going to be encouraging you, because, that really influences our own ability to believe in ourselves and to take those risks, knowing that we have that net of people to support us, if things don't go well. And honestly, a lot of times things are not going to go well. You asked me about mindset. I just remembered one more thing, that another mindset that keeps evolving for me is this idea of failure. Like, what is failure? I think we are taught from a young age that failing is bad, is negative. And of course, we don't want to purposely fail. And it's just part of the journey. We cannot learn, we literally cannot learn if we don't fail, if we don't try and notice that that didn't work. I have small kids, and when we talk about when they feel frustrated that they fail or things didn't work well, I always remind them that before they even learn to walk, they had to fall so many times, right? So that they kept trying. That didn't discourage them. They were just, they knew they were going to walk eventually. So they kept doing it and figuring out different ways. And that's life, right? If we have a goal, we go for it, and then we try and we fail, and then we try again and we learn something. Next time we do a little bit better. And that's just kind of how it goes.
I like the concept of, in many ways, like normalizing failure, right? Because accepting failure as part of your journey. And I relate to you when you said, like, growing up, the notion of failure is bad. Like, my family, my parents, like, failure is bad, like, horrible. You should not be failing. So, growing up, I have this fear of failing. And every time you want to do something, this fear of failing almost suffocate you because you don't
Um,
want to take the first step because you don't want to fail. As I become an adult, I realize, like, why have that fear of failing when failure is an equity success? I like the notion that you said too. If you want to do something, do it all in. And remember, if you don't do something all in, like you said, it's hold you back.
yeah.
And the last part that's really also great about what you share is surround yourself with the people that are there to support you. Because in doing your business, you mentioned it's true, which are experiencing too, that you can experience a lot of setback and failure before you finally hit that one thing that moves you in the right direction.
Of course.
Next, I want to ask a question about as you started business and you get moving, what practical step and strategies help you the most in launching your business?
I think it's really important to have some goals and things that you can kind of work towards,
Mm.
right? And so either this could be a monetary goal, it could be, a kind of client, it could be number of clients, it could be even process goals, right? I want to get organized, I want to hire staff to help me with X, Y, and Z. So just like planning, I think it's important for the business. And I'll go back with what we were talking before, this idea of going all in. And I want to share an example of that. Like when I started my business, I was very reticent around social media, right? I tend to be more of a private person. And so I wasn't really posting much on social media. And the social media I use the most is LinkedIn. That's where most of my clients are. And then I listened to someone saying something that really stuck with me. They said, people, this is like a very successful entrepreneur, right? And he's saying, people come to me and say that I'm not going to post on social media because I don't feel comfortable. It's not what I like to do. And then what he tells these people is like, okay, it's your choice, but that's how you get clients, is by posting on social media. That's where your audience is. So it's your choice. You can stay in your comfort zone and not get the clients, or just get out there and go where people are going to find you. And I think this is something that's so true for business and for life. We can stay in our comfort zone and doing what we feel good, or we can do what it's going to take to move the business forward and to find your clients and to grow your business and to develop yourself. So it's a constant choice that we have. And I find that when I get out of my comfort zone, I go for it. I don't let the fears or the doubts get in the way. I accomplish a lot more.
I think working outside of your comfort zone is ultimately helping you grow. And I like the fact
100%.
that you mentioned you're sort of a private person and you're pushing yourself to actually post on LinkedIn so people get to know more about the work that you do. And in my experience, anything you post out there is what I call social proof. People see the work that you did and how you interact with people and your client and just testimony. People get to see those, so before they even like sign up with you, they look at your social media, especially LinkedIn, to get to see like what body of work did Barbara do, what
Yeah.
did Barbara do over the past 6 months. And they're like, yeah, I like that part, so I really want to engage Barbara. So absolutely true that I think social media has been a big part of how people do business, and
Yeah.
not just now, but it's going to continue to evolve over time.
And if I can add one thing, I totally
Yeah.
agree. And also, when I post, I always have the objective of being of service to people. So I post things, that's my goal at least, to post things that I feel like are really going to be relevant and support people. So this is a mindset shift for me too, because before I felt like if I was posting on social media, I was like asking something of people, right? I was just there to promote myself. And of course, I'm promoting myself, but now I really see it as more of a service too, because I am I am adding value to people. That's what I always have this goal. And so it makes it a lot more natural for me as well. That's how I was able to be more okay with that and really go for it.
I think I like the way you pivoted, right? I think for the audience who's going to listen to this episode, you should replay that portion of her talking about shifting your mindset and what you're doing instead of asking or selling, you're giving service to other people. The
Mhm.
next question I have is you said about talk about setting goal, creating plan, but what role did self accountability play in your ability to transition into doing your business?
Self accountability. It plays a huge role because I'm my own boss, right? So if I am not um, doing my own checks and balances and doing my part, my business is just going to get stuck. And
Mm.
I see that very clearly. When I'm all in, I am putting time, the effort, the time, the energy, then things happen. And the opposite is also true. And also when I am with clients, right, and things don't go necessarily as I planned, it also is another opportunity to look at how did I contribute to that situation not going as I planned. So I'll give you an example. I work with a lot of executives as coaching clients, and there was this one particular person I was working with, and in our coaching program, eventually he started to kind of disconnect, right? He wasn't showing up as fully to the coaching sessions. And I always, as a coach, always love to have sessions where I feel like the clients are really having aha moments and they're growing and developing. And I felt this person was kind of stuck. And my first knee-jerk reaction was like to blame him, right? He's not showing up. He's not doing his part. And then I kind of shifted the mindset. Okay, how am I also creating the situation? Well, how am I enabling this? And what I noticed is that I was having this expectation that the session had to go a certain way. And when I stopped and really became present and aware, I saw that that's not what the client was able, available, or wanting in that moment. There was a lot going on in his personal life. And what he needed from those coaching sessions at that time was more a sounding board just for me to listen to him vent, and more like practical things to do, right? More action items as opposed to really going into more of like, what are my limiting beliefs and things that are getting in the way. And so I took ownership, I took accountability and said, okay, how can I change this dynamic here so that, he gets what he needs from the session and I'm also not feeling disappointed. And I did make that shift. I showed up differently. And then our relationship again got a lot stronger. The sessions started evolving back to, what they were before. So I always like to look at situations and see, how is that I am contributing to it, and what can I do to create something better out of it, as opposed to blame people, blame the situation, blame, traffic, blame the weather, right? Because we can't control those things.
What I like about what you said was you took ownership of the situation. And many people they don't, right? You took ownership, and you pivoted in a way where you didn't think about no longer thinking about your agenda, because like you said,
Yeah.
you have an agenda of what you want to do going in, and now you focus on their agenda, and in doing so things comes around. So that's a hallmark of a great coach.
Thank you.
Now we're going to pivot to the blame topic. We talk a little bit about blame. Many people blame external factors for the lack of progress. How can you help someone shift their perspective, stop blaming other people?
Yeah. So I that's very true, and we learned that again from a very young age, right? To blame the world for what's going on, and things happen in the world we can't control. Again, we can't control if it's going to rain, right? You want to go to the beach and starts rain,
Mm,
you can't control that. You can't control traffic. All you can do is see how you are responding to the situation and how you can take responsibility to make that situation that honestly is neutral, is just the reality, into something that you can benefit from, you can learn from. So I like to take three steps, to answer your question when we get into this blaming mode. The first one is identify what is the challenge, right? And get some clarity and notice, what are you blaming, right? That's the first step. The second step is look at, okay, what is under my control and what is not under my control here.
yeah.
And so you differentiate that, because there are always going to be things that are not under your control. So let's focus on what is under our control. And then, based on what is under my control, what is one action that I can take to improve the situation, to take it to where I want to go, to make it better? And I can give you an example. Let me just give a really, I'll stick to my weather example because that's a simple one, right? I want to go to the beach and it
Yeah.
starts raining. So I'm blaming the weather. Oh my God, this weather. I'm unhappy because I can't do what I want. So that's the kind of identify the situation. Then what can I control and what I cannot control? I definitely cannot control the weather. I cannot change the rain.
Yeah.
What can I control? I can control what am I going to do if I'm not going to the beach. Maybe I can find something else to do. I
Mm,
can find a nice movie, right, to watch, or I can call a friend to do something. I can also control my thoughts around, right? I am now blaming the rain. I can look at the rain in a different way. Oh, it's nice it's raining because now all the plants are going to have water, right? Whatever. So I can control that. And then what's one step that I can take? One step that I can take is figure out something else to do today, right? Go to the library and get a very nice book. So those three steps I think are really helpful when we get into the blaming game.
Thank you for sharing the three-step, and I love the weather analogy. Thank you. So there's stickiness to that one because people could relate to it.
Yeah.
As we deal with the idea of getting getting ahead of the business and making progress, what are some of the daily habits or practice that help you stay accountable when you were in your journey, and how can our listener implement those in their lives?
Yeah. Well, from a very practical standpoint, I have like my calendar, which I live by. I think that's very important. A lot of people feel like they are lost, that they don't have time to do what they need to do. And so having an organized calendar is really important. Having some way to keep your to-dos and have some, there are many different methodologies you can use for this, but like prioritizing what's important, what's urgent, and so you can define what needs to be done in the day. Another thing that's very helpful for me is using the morning, which is for me the time of the day that my brain works the best, to do the tasks that really take more thinking power. So if I need to write something, right, if I need to solve a problem, I do those in the times of the day where my mind is working best. um, and another thing that I've always, since I started this career, I've done, which is super helpful, is for me to have my own coach, because my
Mm.
own coach helps keep myself
Yep.
accountable too. It helps me go through those ups and downs, because we all have ups and downs, right? It's just part of life. So when things are not going as great, they help keep me accountable. They help keep me moving forward. So having someone in your life that it's either like a coach or a friend or a mentor that can help you see that there is a next day, and keep you accountable when things are not going as great as we would like.
Thank you for sharing it, and I love the fact that you yourself have a coach,
Yeah.
right? I think it's like you're learning and evolving. I think we talk a lot about how you transition into a business person. We talk about mindset. We talk about habits to reestablish and be successful. We also talk about the three steps of avoiding shifting your mindset to not blame other people. If there are three takeaway from today's episode, what would those three takeaway be?
I think one would be that what I said, like step two is the killer of step one.
Yeah.
So really focus on, taking one step at a time and knowing that no decision is irreversible, right? There's always a next decision that's going to
Mm.
come after that. So this would be one takeaway. Another one would be um, around focusing on what you can control, because there's always going to be, no matter which situation you are, right? And I know today we talk a lot about how, depending on your economical class, on your gender, on your race, on your religion, we can feel like we are starting from different points. And that is true in my point of view. And given that that's the reality, what can you do? Right? Because we
Yes.
can blame the reality as much as we want. That doesn't help. We can try to change it, and that's a great thing to do. And we should focus on what we can control. I highly believe in that. And then the third takeaway, I think, would be like trust the process, right? When we are scared, when we are afraid, when we are not believing in ourselves, just do it afraid and trust the process. Because when we put our time, we put our energy, things happen.
I think especially love the trust the process, but I totally bought into that one. I always tell people too, when sometimes you're working on something and you don't see the result immediately, it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
Something is happening, and you need to believe in yourself and trust the process, because in the end you'll get there. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing the three takeaway. If my audience wants to reach out to you, how may they best reach out to you?
My website is the best place. It's bnowconsulting.com. So it's BNOW consulting.com. So you can sign up there to join my mailing list. You can also sign up to have a consultation about coaching or about leadership training. And I'd love to hear from your audience.
Thank you, Barbara, for your time. It's been a pleasure hosting you today in our episode.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.